Hey, what's going on, guys? Xiangqi PGN here. I'm starting a new series on this chess programming channel. I've been preparing for this series for quite a bit of time. Wasn't sure if I'm capable of doing that or not, and many other reasons, literally excuses. But today, I finally feel like everything I need has gathered into a single understanding and a vision. It's still quite pretty vague, but nevertheless, it's enough to kickstart with this new project. At first, I'll just try to describe what kind of project I'm talking about, and you've probably already guessed this from the video title of the video. And then in this brief intro video, I'll try to describe what is in my head basically, and how I'm about to proceed with this sort of a project. So what I've created so far, so I've created several apps to play Chinese chess in C. I have play versus computer app. I also have puzzle solver and game viewer. I've been showcasing them the numerous times on this channel before. So what I want to do now, I want to create a multiplayer mode app, call it however we want. So I want to play CNC versus other humans over the internet. That's the idea. And obviously only client side which I have now here is not enough, so we need a server side. And one of the issues I've been thinking about was actually to find a free hosting that would be okay for proof of concept of this project, because without of that it doesn't really seem to be making that big sense. But I really hope that I would be able to run this at pythonanywhere.com. I tried that before several times. It has a free hosting, which should fit this very initial version that is in my head currently. So let's go for a quick overview of what in particular was supposed to be doing. Well, this is very vague, and just rename. Let's call it CNC server.txt. Okay, so I can minimize this and even get rid of and just make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, so just to make it easier to see the lines. So what is currently in my mind is the following. So the very first thing that we will need is the UDP client server model. So a few words about this before we continue. So for multiplayer multiplayer game, we need a way to interact with two peers that are trying to play versus each other. But obviously we'll need a client server model, because the idea is the following. So I will probably probably I can provide some visual kind of like, let's just make it like this, server, and just try to provide this like explanation. And here we have the client 1, okay, and here we have the client 2. So this is just a proof of concept explanation here, but this should be really enough to get the initial understanding of what's going on here. So you just imagine, so what is the game, what is the board game? And by the way, yeah, before you drop watching this video because you're not interested in Chinese chess CNC, I just want to tell you one little thing. So so first of all, I'll try to make this project as modular as possible, which means that the UDP client server model won't be relying on the particular game at all. So I'll try to make it game agnostic. So I'm not going to be making any move validation or things like that on the server side, which might sound pretty weird, but that's CodeMonkeyGame's approach. So I think that should be just fine. So this first and the most initial, the core part of UDP client server model, this in theory, in my dreams, this should be possible to reuse it in whatever board games, so like in international Western chess as well, and in some chess variants. So and literally whatever board game, this should be possible to reuse. With some sort of a minor modifications, obviously, but generally, the model itself should suit whatever board games. And the matter of Chinese chess in particular, and all the move validation, all the stuff, that would be just the pure client side. A little bit weird, I believe, yeah, but I think that should be working. Also, just want to mention that I have a very poor experience in networking in general. So the only networking project I had so far is my hobby project on creating an Android app to control mouse pointer on screen on the computer via the smartphone. So I was just kind of touching my smartphone, and the mouse was kind of moving on the screen. Also I had clicks, and also I could type from my smartphone keyboard and get the text typed on my computer as well. And the way I did that was this UDP client server model. So I'm going to be reusing this model because I have a bit of experience with that, and I really love this connectionless nature of the UDP protocol. I know it's really arguable which one to use, TCP or UDP, but I think that for this proof of concept implementation, this really should be just fine, just enough. Okay, so the idea is very simple. So client 1 wants to play the game of Chinese chess with client 2. So if there wasn't any server, then we could have interact like with one with another, right? But the entire idea is that you can go to the server and find somebody to play with there. So that's the reason why the server needs. So server is a module that allows to connect two clients to play a single game. I have no idea at all like how to handle the multiple games at the moment, to be honest. And first I would be making this for the only game, for the single game, and then just try to extend this so far and so on to see how far I can go with this sort of an approach. So the idea is very simple. Server is listening to the socket. So obviously we will need sockets, and in Python, I forgot to say the main thing. So we would be implementing the client server model in Python because, well, first of all, because Python Anywhere is built with Python. So it's built on top of Amazon Web Servers, but it has really nice Python environment being prepared there already. So I think this would be a very nice thing to kickstart with. Even though socket module is probably, yes, this should be the standard one, but still. So there would be a server that would be listening for incoming requests, and it would be binded to a certain socket. The socket would be binded to the particular IP address and port, and the same for clients. So the idea is very simple. So client 1 sends the move to the server. Server sends the move to the client 2, then client 2 sends the response back to server. Server sends response back to client 1. That's how the game is going to be handled. So quite pretty simple, but the very first coding video, that would be the next one following, would be making something even easier. We'll first establish the proof of concept server and client to make sure that we can send the message from the client to server back and forth. So that's the most initial thing to kickstart with. And again, like all the stuff like handle multiple games and so on, I have no idea how I'm supposed to be doing that at the moment at all. And that's another feature of CodeMonkey approach. So I just really need this core gist essence to kickstart with, so I can feel within inside me that I know something, the very main line to follow, and all the tiny little details are coming next. Well, quite often I am into lots of pitfalls with this sort of an approach, but as far as this is the hobby project and I'm not really expecting much from it, I think this is fine, and also an opportunity to learn a little bit more about networking is really tempting. So this is the first and the core part of the entire project, so UDP client server model. The next thing to consider, again, like probably not even because, well, as far as I'm aware, we can't send. Can we send the messages to UDP server via browser? Probably I should have Googled that, but anyway, so the idea would be the following. So we need the middleware web application. So this would be the web application, and the idea of this web application is actually to handle it would be receiving the moves from the front end. So let's say this would be the HTTP server. It would be done with Python and Flask, because I'm very comfortable with that sort of a. So this would be Python sockets. Okay. So it would be implemented using Python and Flask, because I'm very comfortable with that. And here we'll have our browser front end. So the idea is simple. So we are here within the browser. We are sending. We're gonna making a move on a board, like here. We're just making a move, and then instead of asking computer to make the move back, we would be sending this move to this HTTP server first. Okay, so move goes from the browser to our HTTP server, and then the server would need to initialize whether this is the client 1 or client 2. I'm not sure how exactly I'm supposed to be doing that, to be honest. That doesn't matter at the moment. So the next thing, HTTP server should send a message. So with the UDP service, we have a function like send to and receive from. So HTTP server on its backend using Python would be sending this message to UDP server. So it would initialize which client we are currently receiving the move from, whether client 1 or client 2, or probably basing on the site to move and I guess the game ID, something like that. I think that would be appropriate. So sending this to the server, and then the server would be sending this to the client, to another client. And I have no idea how exactly that would be done. So this another client should be notifying this HTTP server, and it should also this HTTP server should be updating the browser somehow. So we see like if the opponent has moved in response. I'm sorry for this vague understanding. And again, like, and again, like, I'm not really about teaching you guys on how to do networking. Not at all. I'm total noob in this myself. I'm very new to this networking stuff. So you should probably consider it to be like watching a noob's attempt to come up with a multiplayer game, basically, rather than the tutorial. So I'm not trying to teach anyone at any point. I just really want to showcase the process of how CodeMonkey goes with mastering a new technology, literally like almost absolutely from scratch. So only the very general and vague understanding, and not really clear how exactly this would be done. So this is it basically. This is kind of it. The most thing that the thing that I'm concerned about the most is I'm not really sure how we can. I understand how HTTP server can send a move to the UDP server, and I'm clear like how this client server modal interaction works, but I'm slightly concerned about how, let's say, here we have, like, let's say, just to give it a bit more clarity, just to bring a bit more clarity. So this would be user 1, literally, okay, and here we'll have the user 2. So user 1 sends, using the browser, sends the move to the HTTP server, and then the HTTP server sends the move to client 1. Let's say so. Might not be the case, but let's say that the HTTP server is sending message to client 1, then client 1 sends message to UDP server. It sends message to client 2, and client 2 sends message back to HTTP server. It goes to the browser, and actually both user 1 and user 2 now see that user 2 has made a move. So that's kind of how it looks like. And then we go the opposite. So user 2 sends to the browser, browser sends to HTTP server. It sends to client 2, to UDP server, to client 1, back to server, back to browser, and both guys see the move made on the chessboard. So again, like, I'm really sorry for, I have no idea how in particular this is gonna be working, but I think this is gonna be even more intriguing, especially assuming the YouTube format, when, you know, like, if I was watching the video when a guy tries this sort of a stuff, and if I had a choice whether to choose someone a pro who did it several times and going for very complicated modals, and someone a noob like me, then I would definitely consider someone to watch the video by someone a noob like me, because the gap in the understanding of the technologies is less. Because when you see like a pro is doing something that, in that case, you feel very, very noob, and it's really hard to pick up the stuff from scratch. So it might turn out that I made some horrible mistakes with this sort of an explanation, but again, like, it's even more interesting to follow, because just to give you an idea where I was in the very beginning, and then we'll see how far can I go and how exactly my understanding would be changing along the way. But at very least, I really hope that the general idea of having this 2 servers basically is actually correct. And well, I think that HTTP server is definitely the guy to send to interact with the UDP server. So probably, yeah, I mean, like, the client 1 and client 2 will probably be instantiated within the HTTP server, I guess. Well, again, I'm going from bottom to top approach, so I just need to start writing some code, and then I'll figure out on how kind of like how it works. So that's basically the way to go. Well, okay, guys, so this is it from my side. This was the intro, and in the next video we'll write some code in Python to implement the proof of concept UDP server and client interaction. So we would be creating a socket on the server side, binding it to IP address and the port, and listening to incoming requests, and then we would be trying to send a message from the client, and the server would be responding back to the client, and client would be displaying that message. So that's kind of the plan. Something very simple to kickstart with when the UDP tutorial, when we see some tutorials on UDP client server model on the internet, basically. So that's the way to go. So despite the fact that there might be some bullshit in what I say, there won't be any bullshit in what I code, because when I code, it might sound a bit weird, but what I code and what I say is not always the same. So better like understand like when I code rather than when I talk. So I'm sorry for that, but that's Code Monkey King's approach. Well, okay, guys, so this is it from my side. Thanks for watching. I'm waiting you in the next videos within this exciting tutorial series. Until the next time, and take care.